Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, there are conflicting stories between a Swiss tour operator who says a group of travellers were briefly stopped by gunmen in Cameroon and Yaoundé. The government is praising security forces for launching a successful rescue mission of 18 hostages they say were abducted. Also, Seoul says it's concerned about DR Congo's vote, which is scheduled for December, and it distances itself from the South Korean company providing electronic voting machines for the controversial poll. Many international observers fear that it will make it easier for potential hijacking of the election. And in Guinea, journalists claim that media freedoms are deteriorating after a recent spike in attacks on journalists and the press. Our correspondents on the ground tell us more. But first, a Swiss tour operator is contradicting Cameroon's claims that its security forces freed 18 hostages allegedly kidnapped by English-speaking separatists. 12 were European tourists. Tour operator African Adventures claims that the group had been passing through southwestern Cameroon when they were stopped by armed men. Special forces allegedly arrived after the tourists had already been allowed to continue onwards. Yaoundé, however, says that locals helped them track down abducted travellers. Our Indira Ayok tells us more.
Prior to the official statement from the Minister of Communication, Issa Chiroma Bakari, concerning the liberation of some 12 hostages, many Cameroonians were not aware of the disappearance of the tourists. The 5 Italians and 7 Swiss nationals had been kidnapped in the Mourning division as they prepared to visit the Twin Lakes under the canopy of the Africa Adventure Group. The dates and circumstances surrounding their kidnappings have not been made public by the government of Cameroon. However, all we know is that the Cameroon military was able to secure their liberation. In a related development, some 6 municipal councillors who were also abducted in the other Anglophone region, that is the northwest region of Cameroon, were also released thanks to the intervention of the military. In this other case, the dates and still the circumstances surrounding their kidnaps were not made public. Insecurity is still a major concern in the English-speaking regions of Cameroon.
Indira Ayek there for us. Now, Seoul's officially distanced itself from the South Korean firm providing electronic voting machines to Democratic Republic of Congo for its presidential polls due in December. The South Korean government says that it's worried that Kinshasa is manoeuvring to delay elections or skew them. DR Congo, however, says that the voting machines will reduce the chance of electoral fraud. Nicolas Chemin tells us more.
For Joseph Kabila, it's an embarrassing statement. It comes from the South Korean embassy in Kinshasa and states the government's position. Seoul criticizes the electronic voting machines that are to be used in Congo's presidential election in December, machines that are sold by a private South Korean firm.
Use of the machines could give the Congolese government a pretext for undesirable results related to the elections, notably a further delay in holding the elections. The Korean government possesses no legal right to forcibly discourage a private Korean company from exporting its products.
The Electoral Commission said there was no problem with the machines and no reason to cancel the contract with the South Korean firm.
We've already received 200 voting machines and sent them to different regions to raise awareness among voters. We tested the machines, and the experience that we've had is that the results are reliable. The voting machines are reliable.
Voters will choose their candidate on a touch screen. The machine will print the result, and each person will put the ballot in the box. When voting is over, the machine prints out the result. But the opposition believes these machines will be used for electoral fraud. It's also angry because Kabila's mandate officially ended in December 2016. But authorities have pushed back the election until December 2018.
Voters in Sierra Leone are still waiting for the results of the weekend's presidential runoff vote. It looks like it's going to be a close final tally of votes between the ruling party's Samara Kamara and the opposition's Julius Maada Bio. Results were due in at the start of the week, but the country's electoral commission had to interrupt the ballot count after a dispute over the tallying method left votes from 11,000 polling stations across the nation uncounted. Well, on Wednesday, a small protest was held at the High Court demanding a speedy release of the final outcome. Both sides in the race say that they're confident of victory, but the wait is proving too much for some.
We are tired, right? This is going through, and there's even the schools. We understand that even the WAS, today they're supposed to start, but nothing is going on. So please, tell those who are before us to release the results.
You know, of course, as you can see, everything is standstill. The economy is dwindled down. You know, the daily lives, you know, our children are not going to school. And we thought it fit as coming to courts, you know, to prevail on the judiciary. They too can prevail on next so that they can release the result for.
Since the first election, since when we vote on March 7, there is no business, no sales. You see, people are afraid to come to buy. So we are appealing to them, let them try to call the result for us.
A chief of one of the Islamist groups that seized control of the Malian city of Timbuktu in 2012 appeared in court in The Hague on Wednesday, facing charges of war crimes. The International Criminal Court issued an arrest warrant against Al-Hassan Ag Abdul Aziz Ag Mohammed Ag Mahmoud, and he was handed over to the ICC at the end of March. Al-Hassan's accused in connection to the destruction of cultural monuments in Timbuktu and of having overseen forced marriages for local girls. And in South Africa, mourners continue to head to Winnie Mandela's house in Soweto to pay their respects to the late activist. On Wednesday, scores of members of the Women's League of the ruling ANC party chanted on the street in honour of the anti-apartheid activist. She died aged 81 earlier this week. Guinean private media has come increasingly under attack. Last month, protesters targeted the head office of a private press group, and the car of a TV camera crew was set alight. Reporters say that they've also faced violence from police. Our correspondents tell us more.
Monsieur Thibaut Camara, en direct ce matin chez les Grandes Gueules sur Radio Espace.
The Loudmouths, Les Grandes Gueules on Radio Espace, is an institution on Guinean radio. Usually, few subjects are off limits for the show's presenters, but on March 12th, their openness made them targets, and the station's HQ was attacked by demonstrators.
The tarp protected us from the projectiles thrown at us from left and right. It shielded us from anything they could throw. We try to be as objective as we can to do the job we should. Sometimes it doesn't please one side or the other. It's happened to us before, but an attack like this, targeting us directly, that's a first.
Guinean journalists say reporting is becoming more difficult and working conditions more dangerous. They frequently face violent attacks by activists, spurred on by growing social and political tension in the country. The CEO of the group's television channel is currently facing legal action for on-air comments made about the state of the Air Force.
It's pure intimidation. They want to punish the journalists who ask too many questions, the journalists who carry out investigations.
Charged with spreading fake news, the head of a newspaper has been held in custody. Others are laid off or beaten by the police, like these journalists in November. Recently, the relationship between the government and the private press has become very tense. The government denies any restrictions on the freedom of the press.
No journalists have been arrested, none are in prison, no one has been sentenced for their opinions. There are difficulties on the ground, but these are not specifically related to the government.
Meanwhile, trade associations are sounding the alarm.
Today we are asking for more protection for journalists, that justice be done in all these cases of abuse, beatings, destruction of journalists' equipment.
In a recent statement, Amnesty International also condemned the deterioration of Guinean press freedoms.
Well, that's it for Eye on Africa for now. Thanks for joining us. Do so again if you can. Take care.